had a video go viral. Okay, great. How much money did you make from that video? None. What's the point in the virality if it doesn't result in actual clients and actual revenue?
If you're at zero, the only thing that I would focus on is getting your first 2 or 3 clients. Pick up the phone, go through all of your DMs, email everyone in your contact list that could buy your shit or give you a referral to someone who could buy it, and maybe do it for free. Welcome to Scale Simple. I'm Sebastian, and I'm here with Jeff. Here we talk about scaling your coaching business to 7 or 8 figures while actually keeping the profit. Because here's the thing, most companies sacrifice 70 to 80% of their revenue to bloated ad spend, big teams, or tools they don't need. So we show you how to keep most of your money using hybrid social funnels where organic content and paid ads work together, not against your profit. That's what we talk about here. We share all the specific strategies and what's working right now that you can implement into your business. Somebody was stuck at 20, 30K a month right now, working 60, 70 hours a week. What are the 3 things you think these guys need to do immediately in order to scale to 50 or 100, keep most of the profit?
So it's going to be different for everybody. But one of the main reasons is right at the front end, which is something that you refer to a lot as magnetic messaging. A lot of the time people get stuck is just because they're pulling in a truckload of leads, but they're not necessarily pulling in a truckload of ideal fit leads. You know what I mean? So very often they might be capped because let's say they're spending 10K a month on ads, just as an example. Maybe you're spending more, maybe you're spending less, but you're spending 10K a month on ads. And you're pulling in tons of leads, but there's only a small fraction of those leads that are ideal fit. Most of the time, the reason for that is how you're positioning yourself, how you're positioning the problems that you solve, and your messaging around your marketing. And here's the problem. If you imagine it's like a triangle, right? You've got the, for want of a better phrase, you've got the bottom of the barrel. Like these are not really the clients that you want to serve. And then the next section up would be like pretty good clients. Everybody in there would be a pretty good client. And then you've got the top of the pyramid, which would be perfect. Absolutely ICP, perfect fit clients every time. The biggest mistake I see a lot of people make is that they advertise to either the middle or the bottom. And the way advertising works, marketing works, whether it's organic, paid, whatever, is if you advertise to the bottom, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whoever will pull in those things, but it will also pull in a ton of everything below it. Same thing if you apply to the middle. Okay, these are pretty good clients. I'm going to advertise to those. I'm going to speak to those clients. You're going to get some of those, but you're also going to get a ton of everything below it. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is doing that. Instead of advertising or speaking or creating messaging to the top of the pyramid like this, they will think that there is a bigger market, there is a larger TAM, there is more opportunity in the lower levels. But what they fail to realize is that if you attract the top of that pyramid, so you speak to the top, you speak to the perfect client, you will get those through the funnel and then the level beneath, right? So the ones that are still okay, pretty good, and then you'll get a few of the ones beneath. But the biggest mistake is everybody goes for the bottom because they think that's the larger market, which means they miss the middle, they miss the top, and they get a flood of the bottom and an even bigger flood of everything below that. And that's probably one of the biggest issues I see that people make with their marketing. They don't speak high enough to their ideal client avatar. That's number one. Everything flows down from that. So that's where everything starts, because you could have the best killer sales team on the planet. You could have the most amazing product. You could have everything you want. But if you are not able to get your perfect client on the phone, doesn't matter how good your sales team are. You know, you're constantly speaking to people who want to buy apples, only you're selling steak. I don't want to buy steak. I want to buy apples, right? It's just not ideal. So that's number one. You have to fix the messaging. Number two is probably filtration. And so if you notice, a lot of this is about what you don't do rather than what you do. So a lot of people will let too many people through the funnel. They'll clog their calendar with less than desirable leads. These people aren't good quality. They're not a good fit. Hey ho, let's just get them on the calendar because at least we've got somebody to speak to, which means your calendar then becomes clogged, full of people that are not perfect, who probably don't want to buy your offer, can't afford to buy your offer, who don't want what you provide, who don't have the correct problems that you solve. So the second way that people start, just not being ruthless enough with filtering those leads, not qualifying them hard enough, and making sure that our calendar, although we'll have less calls on it, at least the calls we're taking are going to be with perfect fit clients, which then obviously is likely to result in more sales. So the kind of third thing is maybe a bit weird, but it's almost like energy protection, right? Because if you have back-to-back calls day after day with less than perfect fit clients who don't want to buy your offer, guess what happens to your energy? Oh my God, I'm terrible at closing. Oh my God, my systems are broken. And it's purely based on the fact that you just weren't being ruthless enough with the filtration of those leads. So those would be the two big ones for me: magnetic messaging, making sure we're pulling in the right people with the right message, and proper filtration, making sure that we are not just taking calls with any old Joe Schmo who wants to show up on the calendar. What are your thoughts?
100%. I think it goes even deeper, right? When you get bad fit clients on the phone, you're going to close some of these because you're probably doing a good job at your sales, showing them what you got if they work with you. And these bad fit leads often turn into bad fit clients. That means you won't just start to question your entire marketing system, but you're going to start to question your delivery as well, because these clients complain, they don't complete the coursework, they don't show up to the coaching calls, and you're going to start to question if everything you're doing is even right, because you're not going to get these people results, obviously, because it's mainly their fault. And then you're going to start to not just question your marketing system, but also your ability to deliver on the results that you promise.
Yep, absolutely. And it just becomes this negative spiral. Bad phone calls with bad fit clients affects your energy. Maybe you get a few of them over the line, but then they don't do the work. Then you're dealing with complaints or potentially chargebacks or refunds and all of this kind of stuff. There is no good that comes out of advertising to the wrong market, and there is no good that comes out with filling your calendar full of sales calls with the wrong person. Zero good. But people are very reluctant to cut that calendar because they think volume is good. The calendar's full of calls. Yeah, okay, great. What kind of calls? For every 3 calls I have, only one of them is a good fit. Okay, then don't take the calls with the 2/3 that are not. Make more room earlier in the calendar for better fit clients. Better conversations, speak to the right avatar, and solve the correct problems for the people that you actually solve problems for.
So if somebody was on the run and he only had 60 seconds, what would 3 things be give to them right now within 60 seconds to take their coaching consulting business from K to 100K, making more profit?
So it would be 3 core things, right? Number 1 would be to do with sales. Number 2 would be to do with lead quality. Number 3 would be how to lean down the business, right? So an effective, and there's 2 mechanisms that go into each of those. So for inconsistent sales, number 1, you need to be able to have better conversations in a way that feels genuine, right? And has a high conversion. And then the kind of second step to that would be something that I call the perfect pitch framework, which is a way to pitch your product or solution that gets clients to actually want to buy it. The amount of sales calls I review and the pitch just sounds so weak. It sounds terrible. They do a temp check and the person goes, sounds okay. So dude, that is a problem with your pitch. Even if they're not ideal fit, they should still be left at the end going, holy cow, this sounds awesome. And then focus on lead quality, right? Get the messaging correct. Make sure we're speaking to your dream client's language so that we don't just attract them, but we also pre-sell them, okay? And then a proper filtration system. So a very clear process to be able to qualify those leads before they end up on a sales call. And then really leaning down the business, removing expensive softwares that do nothing, leaning down bloated sales teams, right? And making sure that margins are kept high because you've now got a lean, streamlined system without overly hyped complexity or silly high costs for a team or software, stuff like that.
That's good.
3 things.
Cool.
I've got a question for you. I've spoken to a lot of people who seem to think that you need a massive audience in order to make money. They're constantly trying to go viral. They're buying courses that teach you how to create a viral post and all this kind of stuff. And I know for a fact that you've closed tons of $20,000 deals with less than 1,000 followers. So talk to me a bit about that.
The whole world is always trying to go viral these days. And it seems like going viral is the gateway drug to success. And I personally believe that couldn't be further from the truth. Going viral means you get a lot of followers, a lot of likes, a lot of leads potentially, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean these leads are a good fit and these leads will turn into good clients. So in order to understand what these followers are made of, you need to understand what kind of content produces what kind of outcome, right? And so there's 3 types of content that you can use. One is called tofu, top of funnel. One is called mofu, middle of funnel, and one bottom of funnel content. And the top of funnel content, you can imagine that as being super broad, super funny, engaging content that gets you lots of followers. This is the type of content that helps you go viral, right? This can be a silly meme that is relatable, a weird dance that you may do on TikTok. And this kind of content relates to millions of people. Sometimes it doesn't even need to have a message in English. It can just be some kind of music, a trending sound, right? And so this appeals to millions of people, AKA the effect to this is that you go viral or the piece of content goes viral. You can imagine though, by just listening to the last part of this message, that many of these people might not be ideal clients. Many of them may be somewhere and not even speak your language, interested in your dance, but not actually interested in what you have to offer, which may be growing your business, losing weight, or whatever your offer may be. And so then we go to middle of funnel content, which is more educational or more geared towards your exact audience, where your audience already knows. In the middle of funnel content, you talk about things where your audience is problem aware. Alex Hormozi breaks this down. The graphic that I had shown earlier, which I guess wasn't exactly as related to the concept that you were sharing. In one of his playbooks, and I'm just opening this up right now for anyone that's listening and not on screen, but on my screen right now, we'll see the ads playbook by Alex Hormozi. He talks of these different stages: unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Top of funnel content appeals to everyone. Middle of funnel content is at the problem aware and solution aware stage. That means these are people, if you're having a weight loss offer, these people know that they may be a little bit too fat. They might need to do something to improve. Maybe it's go to the gym, maybe it's eat better, something like that. And you speak to them specifically about these kind of topics. Okay. When we go further down the funnel and we end up in the bottom of funnel content, this is where somebody knows they're fat, knows they want to lose weight, and they know they need to eat better and go to the gym in order to do so. And they're just trying to decide, do they want to go with you as a fitness coach? Do they want to buy your offer? Do they want to buy a new gym membership? Or do they want to buy this meal prep service? Okay. So they're all the way, they already know they need a solution and they're only trying to decide. This type of content usually gets very few views, right? Because there's very few people right now in the market that already know they're too fat, already know they need to do something right now. And they know about all the possible options and solutions out there, right? This is very specific. So we have very few people, like you see in this funnel here, with very few people. But as you can probably imagine, these few people here are the most educated. It means you don't need to convince them or explain to them that they're fat and that they need to lose weight and that they probably could benefit from your coaching program to lose weight, right? You don't need to explain this to them because they already know. They've already looked at the competition and they already know your stuff. So they've already compared this and they're right here, right now. They're ready to make a decision. They're like, okay, let's go. So you can imagine if you're speaking to these kind of people with bottom of funnel content, you may only get 10 views, but out of these 10 people, there's 2 or 3 people that become excellent leads and want to buy your stuff. However, if you're doing funny memes on, I don't know, fat people or workout memes, something like that, you might appeal to millions of people, go viral, get a bunch of maybe leads or followers, likes, whatever, which clog up your DMs, potentially clog up your teams of setters and closers with people that are not qualified and not ready to buy right now or don't even understand that your program could be the solution to a better life. You can imagine that this doesn't always make sense. So long story short, more followers, more views, going viral doesn't necessarily equate more revenue, more high paying clients, more better leads. And this is the mistake that many people do when they start creating content, right? They're always looking at these views, which is understandable, right? If you start an Instagram channel and you have 3 followers, 10 followers, you feel a little bit, how do we say? You feel like you need more to compete, right? You feel like you need more social proof, which is fair. Having top of funnel content is good, right? It's good to build your social proof, build up a little bit of a brand, get some followers, get some likes, so you're not completely left alone. But that's where you need to really quickly build in that content with more meat, right? And make sure that you have all 3 of these content levers, so top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel covered, so that you can also attract the people that really want to buy your services. And that's how you also get there really quickly. That's how you have people and clients of ours that don't have 1,000 followers, but they're still closing over $10,000 a month, just out of those few bottom of funnel, very specific bottom of funnel and middle of funnel posts that attract their ideal clients and get them to sign on to their offer.
Yep. I literally had a conversation with someone yesterday who has got less than 1,000 followers and they're doing about 30K a month because every single one of those followers, they don't have a single video that's gone over about 200 or 300 views, but every single person that follows them is the perfect client avatar. So they're doing 30K a month with less than 1,000 followers. And that's why I think virality is nothing more than a vanity metric. It's good for the dopamine. I had a video go viral. Okay, great. How much money did you make from that video? None. So then what's the point in the video? What's the point in the virality if it doesn't result in actual clients and actual revenue? You're better off having a video do 200-300 views, but knowing that everybody that came to you from those views is like absolutely resonating, which goes all the way back to the top with what we were talking about is the magnetic messaging.
And I think it's important also to understand, depending on what you're selling, if you're not selling low ticket, a lot of what we do is we talk about high ticket coaching where you charge thousands of dollars for your offer, maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000. You got to also just understand basic statistics. If you go look out at the world, how many people can afford $20,000 right now? And you'll really quickly realize that is not the masses. That is not the millions of people on social media. It's also not the millions of people that come from lower income countries like Bangladesh or India or whatever. So you will naturally, I know a guy, he does enterprise sales coaching. I also was a long time in enterprise sales, so very familiar with this, and he does enterprise sales coaching. This is directly going to senior leaders, senior sales leaders of enterprise organizations. That means Fortune 500 maximum, right? How many of these are there out there on the world? There's not so many, right? There's only maybe of these 500 organizations, then there's going to be 500, maybe there's going to be a couple more. So you have around, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people like this that lead enterprise sales teams. His ticket is 50,000 plus more for these sales trainings, these programs that he gives these companies. He doesn't need millions of followers on his YouTube, right? Sometimes he has 50, 100, 200 views. But if these 200 views are leaders of Fortune 500 enterprise organizations that will buy his stuff or partner with him to take their sales teams to the next level, that's all he needs. There are not more people when you go up the ladder and you charge higher prices. There's just not as many people there naturally.
Yep, 100%. So I'm just going to bold the ones that we've touched on. What about this? If you could only do one thing a day for 2 hours, one thing for 2 hours a day to hit 100K, what would it be?
That's a good one.
I like that.
One thing to hit, it really depends where you are. I think that's really important, right? If you're right now at zero and you're trying to hit 100K, that's going to be different as if you're at 30K and you're trying to hit 100K. If you're at zero, the only thing that I would focus on is getting your first 2 or 3 clients. And what I would do there is really leverage what you have. So forget everything out there that everyone's talking about in the playbook, outreach, ads, all of that, and just focus on what do you have available in your immediate ecosystem. Did you just exit a corporate job? Can you leverage some of your network to take into your coaching business? Do you have family, friends, your immediate surroundings? And it's a strategy that I call scratch and claw. Okay, so you should always, before you do any kind of system that all the gurus teach you to do, you should employ scratch and claw to get to your first 3 clients, which is pick up the phone, go through all of your DMs, email everyone in your contact list that you possibly could buy your shit or give you a referral to someone who could buy it, and maybe do it for free, right? Maybe do your first 2 or 3 within your network. Hey, can I help you do XYZ, whatever you want to offer in order to build a case study and a testimonial? Once you get to that point, so now I'm assuming you're making 10K a month, had at least 2 or 3 clients, and you have 2 or 3 case studies that you can leverage. That's when I would really focus 2 hours. So then at this point, I would spend 1 hour on content, and I would probably do it twofold to maximize these 2 hours as much as possible. If you really only had 2 hours, I would go live and do a delivery for a client and then repurpose this content as shorts and on YouTube. So I would try to go live on every platform while I'm executing something for a client. It can also be a free client or whatever. Hey, let me review your website and tell you exactly where your conversion bottlenecks are and how you can do it better. And I would do that live, answer all the clients' questions, implement actually there on the call, whatever it is you do, or do your coaching, do your training, and then repurpose that content and those shorts or from that live into social media content. And then I would use the other hour to send that to more people. So basically saying, hey, Mr. Johnson, I just recorded a live training where I helped Kathy Sue update her website and get so and so much more traffic or leads or better conversions from it. Would you be interested in that too?
Why would you use lives? Why would you go live?
I think I don't just think, I know that the platforms are currently pushing live. So every platform from TikTok to even Facebook is now again reviving and ramping this up. They're pushing lives due to the fact that it takes people back to the platform, right? These platforms, they only have one thing in mind, which is users on the platform spend as much time as possible on the platform so that they can advertise to them and they can make more money. And the lives are forcing a lot of users to come back to watch something at that time. And that's why they're pushing users that go live. And at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to also be present with your audience that you're building. So you can answer questions and interact with them. So it's already part of community building, which you can do a little bit in the comments of your videos that you post, but it's more interactive and it's more real and more social, which I think is something that is missing now in 2025 going into 2026. As everything gets more, you don't even know if it's real or not anymore, if that video was generated with HeyGen or whatever. And at least on live, you might be able to assume maybe soon we will have lives that are not real anymore, but at least now you still know there's a real person. You can ask questions, they answer your questions, and you can interact. That's why I would go live.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, dude. It's a lot of organic can take a long time to get traction. Now, it's possible that you can pop off straight away. It's just not likely. So I would agree with that 100%. I think lives are a bit of a cheat code. At the moment when all of the platforms across the board are pushing them so hard, why not take advantage of it? And this could be applicable for a business that is doing 10K, 50K, even 100 a month. If you just want more quality, the other thing I think is possible with the live is that you don't just get to speak to your ideal avatar, but you also get to qualify them. So if anybody says on the live, hey, do you think you could help me? You can there and then say, what is the problem? What are you trying to get help with? What do you need fixing? Where are you stuck? You can literally qualify them on the call rather than trying to wedge somebody through a funnel. Dude, I agree. I think lives are a cheat code for everybody.
You do a lot of lives right now. What are you experiencing? Tell us about the benefits of going live and some recent wins that you had.
Dude, exactly. So we have a high ticket sales academy, right? Where we train and place setters and closers. The reason that I have that is because it's an immediate benefit to our clients. They always want a well-trained high ticket setters and closers. And so if we can help place those people as part of our package, if they have a sales team or they want to build a sales team, some people don't. But if they do, then we have a pool of people that we can place for them. And just by going live consistently for about the last 3 weeks, for about an hour a day, sometimes I lose track of time and it's built into 2 hours, whatever. But we have a flood of people coming into the high ticket coaching academy, which is a low ticket option because it's not a primary revenue generator, but it does give us a pool of people to be able to pull from to help the clients that are paying us. But we saw a flood of new people come into that academy. And so that's a nice little bump in monthly revenue. That's great. But also it gives us that talent pool that we can then pull from in order to help out the clients that are paying for us. And that was literally all I did. About an hour a day, every day for about 3 weeks, no biggie. Put a banner above my head, answered questions. People start asking, they click the link in bio naturally. They're like, okay, I like what this guy's saying. Let me go and check out some more stuff. Maybe they come over to the podcast and check out a little bit. They look at the high ticket and then they come back onto the live and then they're asking questions. How does it work? What time are the calls? Stuff like that. And you're like, oh, okay, you're interested. And then gradually you notice 1 or 2 a day just joining the high ticket academy. And it was, okay, this is interesting. I did it purely as a test. Just initially I did it because a client said, is there any validation to lives? And I went, no. And then I stopped and I went, do you know what? I just answered too quickly. I don't know. So I'm going to test it and come back to you with the results and tell you whether I think there's any validity to it. And I had to eat my shorts because they're.
And I think you're a perfect example, right? If we're talking about question that we had before about how many followers do you need to go viral? I know as a fact in your lives, and I've been in them before, I've never really seen more than 10 people in your lives. And I think this might be worrying for many people. I'm going to go live and I only have 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people in my live. What do you have to say to these people that are worried about not having enough users or not having enough people in their live, in their first live?
It's the same thing with
tell us as well about your first live. Like how many people actually came to your first time that you went live?
Do you know what? I can pull up my analytics and I can tell you. I'll pull up my analytics right here. Here we go. Real-time analytics, video live. Let's go all the way back, view all. So the first live had a total of 400 people. But that also includes people clicking on and clicking straight off when they go, oh, look, I can see this is about sales. I'm not interested in sales or whatever. So that's everybody. Let me go.
Does it show you like the average of the average people in the room during the live?
No, it doesn't show you an average. There's a total of about 400 people. And at any one time, there was somewhere between 10 and 20 on the live. The point is exactly what you said. Most people would be miserable about that. They'd go, oh, God, 10 to 20 people. But it was 10 to 20 perfect people who were looking for exactly what I do, which is teach high ticket setters and closers how to get better at their craft or how to get into the industry in the first place or whatever. Maybe it's a guy working a traditional sales job and hates it and wants to have a bit more autonomy in his life. So he's heard about this thing called remote high ticket. So 10 to 20 people, hyper engaged, and multiple of them then went on to join, came into the academy and joined.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Because it's a super low ticket thing, but there was one day where we did like $400, 24-hour period following the live. So people obviously watched the live. They went and consumed a bit of content, probably came over to YouTube, probably went and listened to the podcast, did all the things. And then I noticed that they were just joining. Little cha-ching notification, cha-ching, another one. I was like, no way, where are these people coming from? And it was people that had been on the live. Yeah. So honestly, I just think lives at the moment are a bit of a cheat code, you know?
I think sometimes it's also, people get this the wrong way. If you imagine right now that you look up to the biggest people in your industry, right? So if you're a fitness coach, you look up to, what's his name? Forgot his name now. Austin Hall?
Oh, yeah.
Like these people all the way at the top, right? Ashton Hall, or if you're a entrepreneur, a business coach, something like that, you look at people like Alex Hormozi, Dan Martell, Russell Brunson. Now imagine you going into a live of Russell Brunson or a live of Alex Hormozi. Do you get to talk to him? Do you think he's going to answer any of your questions? He's not going to answer your questions. He's not going to talk to you. He doesn't. There's thousands of people, maybe sometimes millions or hundreds of thousands of people in these calls, and there's no proximity. And I think many people get this wrong when they go live the first time or when they create their first pieces of content. They're like, oh, I need millions of people to see this. No, you don't. In fact, you don't want millions of people to be in your live because you could not handle it, right? It's not going to be useful for your current stage of business. In fact, right now, if you're making 10, 20, 30K a month, you want to have a live with 5 people asking you quality questions that you can answer, that you can interact with them, that you can be real with them. They can build no trust with you so that then they join your program and they work tightly together with you and they trust you. And you are not able to do this if you get thousands of people into your life.
100%.
So I think many people got this backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only because so many people have pushed going viral as being like the cheat code to business. Dude, it's only a cheat code if you could go viral to 100% of your target market, which is never going to be the case because that's why something goes viral, because it has such broad appeal. It's like somebody who's not anything to do with your niche could find it amusing or interesting. It's got mass broad appeal, which is why it just brings in, yeah, sure, you might get a ton of followers, but those people are following you because the thing you posted was amusing. But you don't want people who find stuff amusing. You want people who are in your niche, in your demographic. And that's why I think trying to go viral is the biggest waste of time. Create content all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, magnetic messaging, create content for your perfect client avatar.
Yeah, cool.
Boom.
What about this one?
Which?
27.
What's the number one lie gurus tell you about scaling that keeps coaches broke? Oh, I love this question. Dude, could lose my fucking mind at this question.
You want to go or shall I go?
Go.
Okay. All right. So what's the number one lie gurus tell about scaling that keeps coaches broke? Because
I'm going to lose my fucking mind at this question, though, just so long as I'm going to lose my fucking mind at this.
Well, keep it, and then you can hit it right on top. Because the sneaky thing that gurus do is they don't necessarily lie, right? They just give you all this stuff that they throw at you that is valuable, useful. It sounds good. It's shiny. But it doesn't necessarily appeal to where you currently are with your current clients and what you need to do next. So I see these videos every day, somebody telling me, I need to do a webinar right now. I need to do a webinar. The problem with that is that webinar funnels are great. They crush for many people. People are making millions and millions of dollars with a webinar funnel. There's nothing wrong about coming to me in short form content, in a YouTube, in an ad, telling me, Sebastian, you should do a webinar funnel right now. The problem is that right now, the stage that I'm in, what I'm doing with my businesses and my teams and my content, this maybe doesn't apply and it distracts. So now I'm suddenly thinking in my head, I'm like, oh shit, I should do a webinar. Everyone's doing a webinar. Everyone's crushing it with webinar. Maybe I could be doing better with a webinar. Maybe I should do webinars too. And what am I doing? All day I'm thinking about webinars, and maybe I buy this thing or I try the thing or I watch more YouTube videos. And in the end, I'm going to, maybe something that I'm doing right now that is working for my businesses, or maybe it's just at the brink of working and I didn't completely figure it out yet. I leave that there to dry. Let's say I'm running another funnel, short form funnel, and I was frustrated because the leads were bad. The leads were lower quality. Maybe I just needed to add one more question and increase the friction on that funnel, and the leads would have been 10 times better. Or I needed to just spend more money, run that funnel for a little bit longer. Instead, I leave that funnel there and I'm like, okay, now I need to go create a webinar. And that is what completely destroys businesses. It destroys your attention. It destroys your focus. You go from one thing to the next. You don't master any of them. And as soon as you try to complete the webinar funnel and actually make money with it, there's this new thing that they're talking about that they're shoving down your throat with content because they're already at the next stage or the next thing that they're doing. Maybe it's a challenge now, or like webinars are out. Now you got to do a challenge. What you're doing is you're just hopping from one thing to the other, from one ad, from one short, from one program to the other, trying to keep up, but not really finishing and mastering one thing. That's the biggest lie that gurus would tell. And now you can come and smash on top of that.
I'm going to try and keep my fucking lid on. There's two problems. The reason the gurus advertise the next big thing, because they know that entrepreneurs are like magpies and they all love a fucking shiny object, right? Me included. Like, I'm a shiny object guy. I love a shiny object. I've learned to control it. I've learned to tame the addiction somewhat, and everybody knows, every good marketer knows that in order to attract an audience, you need like some form of a unique mechanism, something new and interesting. Oh, I don't have that. That sounds interesting. 99 times out of 100, it's just something that has been working for the longest time. It's just repackaged to sound different, right? The reason this frustrates me so much is just because of all of the information. I'm sure we've discussed it previously on the podcast. Google's 7-11-4 rule, the trust deficit that we're all in, which I know Hormozi's spoken about, Iman Gadzhi's spoken about. There is a deficit of trust in the marketplace. 2019, 2020, 2021, VSLs worked great. Webinars worked great. It was all crushing. And there'll be some goober jump into the comments at some point and go, I run a webinar and it crushes. I'm not saying webinars can't crush. I'm just saying that it's probably not optimal because now, 2025, moving forwards, everything relies on brand. Everything is about brand. The reason we're creating this podcast is to create some brand so that people know us. Some people are going to go, I hate Jeff and can't stand his stupid accent and don't like his glasses. And that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Good, because brand is supposed to do two things. Number one, attract your target market. Number two, repel people who are not your target market. So if you don't like my glasses and you don't like my accent, fuck you. I don't mean that. I'm joking. I just mean that we're probably not going to be a fit to work together, right? But the point is that in previous years, you could run a webinar, you could run a VSL funnel, and people would lap it up, take a cold lead, punch them through a 15-minute video, you get them onto a 60-minute sales call, and boom, you're taking $7,000, $8,000 off. Great. Good fucking luck making that work in 2025 when everybody is infinitely more skeptical than they've ever been, when AI has got everybody believing that nothing is real, when there's so many fake gurus out there talking about my Lambo and my Rolex and all the rest of it. Everybody joins that sales call in a position of, you need to convince me. You've got to convince me to buy. And that is why sales calls feel like such an uphill battle in 2025. It's why show rates are suffering so bad in 2025. Whereas if you have a brand, and I don't mean a big brand, I don't mean you've got to be Alex Hormozi, but you have a trusted brand. It doesn't matter if that's 500, 1,000, 10,000 people. It doesn't matter. The size is not important. But you are, again, speaking to that brand, speaking the language of your target market. That is going to do so much good for your funnel, whatever that looks like, whether it's a webinar. All of that brand is infinitely better time spent to be able to warm people up because you're able to educate them through your content. The podcast is to educate people through our content. Hopefully, at least one or will say, okay, these guys make a bit of sense. That's the biggest thing, is people still pushing webinars, still pushing VSLs to coaches, maybe doing 10, 20, 30K a month. I would advise everybody in that boat to not run a VSL funnel. They are hard to get to convert. You will need to spend tens of thousands of dollars testing and testing and testing before it ever turns a profit. So that's I just think it's like, it used to be the best idea. I think it's now the worst idea. And you are better off putting that time, effort, energy, and resources and money into building a brand, not a huge one, but just building some kind of a brand, so that when people discover you on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, whatever it may be, they can resonate with that and they can go, do you know what? Kind of like what Sebastian's saying. I'm going to go and find some more of his content. Okay, I'll watch some more content. I really like what he's saying. Oh, he spoke about his unique mechanism. Now I understand what he does and how he helps. I also understand who he serves, his ideal client, what that looks like. I think I fit that brief. Now, if that person books on the sales calendar, it is an infinitely different conversation to the person who was a cold lead 24 hours ago, and then they rock up to the calendar like this with their arms folded to tell me what you do. You're like, oh, geez, Louise. Dude, that's why I think funnels and webinars are the biggest waste of time in 2025.
But I have another good one to round it off. Recently, I had someone come to me and say, Sebastian, why should I pay you all this money to finally get something? I think we were talking about ad copy or about copy in general or something like that. And Sebastian, I know you do all this stuff with AI, YouTubes, I watch your Instagram. Why should I pay you all this money to get something that takes you a minute to create, or just using AI? Why can't I just myself and do it? What would your answer be to that person? And how can we tell everyone that is, I have my own answer to it, but I want to hear yours first.
Dude, if you asked me that question, I would say you can't. Why haven't you? Why haven't you built your own AI system that can do what mine does? Real question. How would you answer that? Assuming you didn't know how to build AI system.
100%.
You would say, because I don't know how. I'd go, you're not paying for my time. You're paying for my expertise.
I think what many people just get wrong is they assume now that with AI, everything is so easy. You can just go and create a blog post. You can go and create a script for a YouTube video or for an ad.
A shitty blog post.
Yeah, but that, to my point, is, for example, if I hired, let's say, I don't know, lawyers, right? If I hired a lawyer and I paid him 10 grand to set up this contract for me and to whatever, I'm going to assume that's probably, depending what kind of lawyer you hire, but I'm going to assume it's pretty good, and I'm probably going to be able to sue him if that contract doesn't really hold up, or maybe not. If I go to ChatGPT and I put that contract in, yes, I might get a good contract. The issue is I don't have the legal expertise to understand if that contract will hold up in court, and if that's actually a good contract in its core to the benefits of me and my companies and whatnot. So it's still a good thing to hire a lawyer, right? Now, can that lawyer create a contract in 2 minutes using his AI systems, if he has them, then read through that contract and give it to me and it will uphold in court and be like a fucking good contract?
Yep.
Yes, 100%. Because he has the expertise. He knows the local New York bar law, whatever, that needs to pass for that contract. And he'll be able to look over it and be like, no, this is bullshit. And he knows exactly how to prompt it in order to give him the output that he needs in that contract.
Yep.
And the same thing goes for if you're a fucking good marketer and you know exactly how to write Facebook ads that crush, you know how to do a good hook, you know how to do the delivery and whatnot in that ad, you know exactly how to prompt the AI and how to edit and revise the copy to be so on point that ad will crush. Somebody else may be able to go to AI, use your YouTube video or the Instagram or whatever kind of knowledge to recreate something. But the problem is, once this is recreated, he will not know whether it will crush or not. He will not know what is fluff and what is not, because he's never written good ads himself that have crushed and made millions of dollars. That is the problem. And ladies and gentlemen, if you think that you can just go and use AI for a skill set that you do not have, trust me, if that was the case, then India right now would be taking over the world with billions of dollars, because everyone's using.
Yep.
The problem is, and I don't want to, I don't want to be racist against India. There's some very bright minds out of India and out of China and every country in the world I want to say that there's a lot of people, let's say maybe India is a country, can be other countries too, but there's a big proportion of maybe not as educated people or not as good marketers in rural parts of the world, right? That may be. And these people now have AI at their disposal. That doesn't mean that they can create the same level. The AI can do PhD quality work, but there's no PhD level mind there to look at that work and to control it, approve it, edit it, change it, amend it, and make it fit for your use case specifically, if that makes sense.
Yep. 100%. It reminds me of the story, the engineer who's paid to fix ships' engines. You heard that story?
Yes.
It
He
reminds
goes
me of
and
that.
he does he goes and he hammers in one screw or one bolt.
He just picks up a hammer and hammers in one bolt. And then he turns around
Yeah.
to the owner of the ship and says, that'll be £10,000, please. The guy's, what? Why am I paying you £10,000? All you did was hit a bolt in with a hammer. And he said, yeah, you're paying me like £1 for picking up the hammer and hitting a bolt, but you're paying me £9,999 for knowing exactly where to hit that bolt, which me 30
where to
years
hit
to
it.
learn. Yeah. So you're paying for expertise.
And by the way, this goes for everyone in the audience, right? No matter what you do or what you are, if you're an accountant, if you're any tradesman or fitness, anything you do well, even if it's just a hobby, right? You may have this very deep experience for this one niche, this one topic that you can bring towards other people. And for example, let's say you're an architect, right? And you're designing buildings. Maybe now we are getting a lot of design software, AI, whatever. That doesn't mean I'm not an architect. I'm not a designer. So if I want to build a house or a multifamily home, something like that, I will still need you or somebody like you to sign off on that kind of stuff. Now, if you can do that within 2 minutes using AI, and you know where to check for all the local laws, regulations, and make sure it's not going to be moldy and flooded and whatnot, and you can sign off on that, I'm happy. And I'll pay you your full rate for being my expert on the field. And this goes for everyone, right? So you can, and I think this is a lot of what we're talking about too, right? How can you increase your profits by not having overbloated teams, not having all this ad spend and whatever, doing the same things that you do with using AI in a smart way to accelerate your business and your profits during this time.
Yep. 100%.
Very good. All right.
Very good.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you made it until here, you're awesome. We love you. Give this show some love. Give it a comment and see you in the next one.